Okay, welcome to B Cubed, the Brains Trust Business Bites. I'm Renee Hasseldine, and today's session is all about the biggest mistakes people make with their visual models. So welcome to Stevie and Ty in the Zoom room. I'm going to share my screen now. And yes, for those of you who are in the Zoom room, please know that you can jump in at any time. You can ask me questions, engage, interact, and I'll try and monitor the comments in the Facebook lives as well. But yeah, for the best full contact, please jump into the Zoom room because that means that I can actually interact with you and see your face as well, which is also very nice. All right, so today's topic is all about the biggest mistakes with visual models. So I really wanted to talk about this today because what happens is that a lot of people get excited when they realize the amazing power of creating a signature system using visual models. They're like, oh my God, this is amazing. Or they read my book, Game Changer, and they jump straight into it and they create their visual models. And part of the challenge is that I see a lot of mistakes come back because with all this enthusiasm in creation, people will send me their models that they've created in isolation, and there are lots of mistakes that I see made. So I'd like to share this stuff with you today so that hopefully you can avoid making these mistakes yourself. All right, so the first mistake people make is that they create their models in isolation. And so what I mean by this is that, you know, we create all our models, we extract what we know, turn them into visual models, and we do it on our own. And it's okay to do the extraction on your own, but it's really, really important to make sure that you actually get the feedback from people who understand the difference between a great model and a crappy one. Because you don't want your mum or your best friend to be like, oh, isn't that lovely? Well done, Katrina. That's very pretty. But not actually give you the honest feedback that you need to take that model on your own up to the next level. So, you know, when I'm working with my clients, I'm always saying to them, we know in the online program, the Game Changer online program, when you extract those models, get them to 60 to 80% on your own. Like that's what I would expect you to get to on your own, is get it when you're extracting and because you're stuck in your own thoughts. And part of the challenge in creating models is that what you know so much stuff, right? It's not that you don't know enough stuff, it's that you know so much stuff and you can get overwhelmed and bamboozled in your own brilliance. So in that process, it can be hard then to communicate the clarity and be succinct in the models because the complexity of what you know. And that's where having, you know, a brains trust look at your stuff will really make sure that you take it from that 60 to 80% up to 95% plus. We're not aiming for perfection because I think that that's, you know, only going to be something that gets in our way, but we do want to aim for a high standard, right? As experts, as thought leaders, our brand is based and our reputation is hanging on the quality of these models. And we need to make sure then that we are representing ourselves and our work at the highest possible level. So always, always make sure that you are getting feedback from a brains trust that actually understands the difference between great models and shitty ones. And so, you know, and they need to understand the difference between a success model, an educate model, an excite model, and a yes model. They need to be able to pick up and say, oh, I see that you've got a noun there in your educate model. That doesn't belong there. It's meant to be all verbs, right? You need to have someone who's actually going to pick this stuff up and understand it at that detailed level, because there's an artistry in creating these models. And I say that even for myself, if I create models on my own, I will make mistakes. So even though this is all I do in my business, it's all Share Your Passion is about, is creating signature systems using visual models. If I create models by myself, I will make mistakes. And Stevie is laughing in here because Stevie is my general manager. She's in the Zoom room with me. And she's laughing and smiling and nodding because Stevie sees me do this. Because I get excited and I go and create models. I start sharing them before I've actually run them through the process of getting feedback myself, because I make mistakes too. Because it's like, if you imagine that your expertise, imagine that there's a cardboard box, right? A Renee-sized cardboard box, and I'm standing inside the cardboard box. I can see what's on the walls inside the cardboard box, and I can see on the floor and up the top, right? But what I can't see is the outside surfaces of my cardboard box. And that's what I need someone else to tell me about when I'm sharing my visual models, is I need someone else who's outside the box to actually see what I can't see because I'm so in my stuff. Right? I'm so inside my zone. And so we really, really need that outside expert opinion to give us that quality, honest feedback that we need to go to the highest level. And I know that most of you guys, you know, as consultants, experts, thought leaders, you see this every day in your business, right? This is what, as service providers, it's the same for your work as well, right? You know that if your clients do this stuff without you, it's not going to be as good as if they had someone like you helping them to do it, right? That's the power of an expert that adds that extra level, that extra quality layer to the work and the outcome and the result. So please, and whether you work with me or not, it doesn't, you know, that doesn't matter. What I want to make sure that you're getting from this is that you need to have someone who understands the power of a brains trust, and that, you know, that they understand the difference between each of those 4 models well enough to give you that quality feedback. All right. For those in the Zoom room, Katrina, and we've got some new people who've joined us as well. Andrula, hello. Hi, Ty. If you'd like to ask any questions, and please do jump in. Katrina, have you got any questions? No? All good. All right. I'm going to keep moving then. All right. So, so that's mistake number 1 in creating your visual models, is creating an isolation. Let's move on now to mistake number 2, and that is using the wrong shape. So I see this, that some people will pick a shape that they love and think that they're going to put all their models into that shape, right? So for example, you know, you might have a Venn diagram, or, you know, you've got to have the right shape for the right model, because the shape itself is a metaphor. There's a purpose and thinking behind the shape. And so let me give you an example. An educate model. So your educate model is all about what are the things that your clients needs to do to get from A to Z. So they come to you with a problem A, they want this result Z, all the things they need to do, like doing. That's your educate model. It's all about actions and doing, right? Step-by-step chronological order process. So what your clients need to demonstrate that that is a step-by-step chronological order is a linear shape. And by linear, I mean it goes in a line, right? It shows you that, and generally that's going to be from left to right, because that's kind of the way that our brains work. It's a horizontal left to right shape. And quite, you know, in its simplest form, it's just arrows going from left to right. Yeah, that's a great shape for an educate model. And you may think, oh, well, that's very boring. You know, they're all going to look the same. I say I don't care, because I would rather this shape be boring, because this actually gives your clients the certainty and the structure they need to trust you. This is not about rah, rah, hoo-ha, woohoo, sales and marketing. This is, once your clients have signed up with you, they need to know that step-by-step process, and that you're going to hold them by the hand and take them through that process, and they're going to understand exactly how you're going to get them from that A to Z. And hi, Taryn. And I tell you, this has ruined me for any other service provider, I have to tell you, because the number of times I have now signed up with the service provider or considered working with them, and they're all rah, 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 and they get me all excited. And then I say, okay, so how are we going to do this? And they can't show me the step-by-step process. I get the heebie-jeebies, and I straight away think, oh gosh, what have I done? I think I've invested in the wrong person, because I don't feel safe that they actually know what they're doing, because it's all in their head. I can't see it. And when I can't see it, I freak out, right? My auditory digital brain needs to understand the step-by-step process. It's going to get me through, right? And so if you want your clients to feel safe, to feel that certainty, to have that secure boundary in working with you, the educate model, you know, is so fabulous. And so again, having it as a linear shape is also important, because it shows them there's a beginning and an end. And the reason that's important is because if a client has pain, right, as a service provider, they're coming to you to solve a problem. They're in pain of some description. There is something that they don't like and they want to change, enough that they're investing money in it. Now, if I am in pain, I want to know that I'm going to have a beginning and an end. I want to know there's going to be an end to the process. And when I get through the end of that process, I will have a result. That's going to make me feel better about saying yes. And it's also going to help me feel better after I've said yes, to follow through and actually continue the process and follow through to the end, instead of freaking out after I've paid my money and think, oh, I think I need a refund. This is all wrong. It's not working. This person feels random, right? When I feel like people are randomly throwing ideas at me, I'm like, do they actually know what they're doing? And quite possibly they do know exactly what they're doing, but I can't see it and I can't feel it and it's not tangible. And so again, I say to you, you know, I'm not the only one like this. I'm sure some of your clients will have the same experience if you don't have that structure and that safety. So coming back to that educate model, why is it linear? Because we want the beginning and the end. We want them to know that there actually is start and an end. If, for example, and I know a lot of clients say this to me, that they have the work they do with their clients, it's like a cycle. You know, you go through it once, but actually you can keep going through it again and again. And I totally understand that, because we're constantly evolving and refining and doing things better each time we go around the circle. And so, you know, it would be valid to have, you know, a circular or cycle in your model as a shape. That could be valid. But I would say 99% of the time, still avoid it, because remember, coming back to me as the client, if I'm in pain, if I'm struggling, if I'm feeling overwhelmed, and you give me a process that's a cycle, right, I'm going to feel like, oh my God, I'm going to go round and round in circles. This process will never end. I will never escape my pain. I will freak out and I will say no. I will not follow through to the end. Does that make sense? So those of you who are in the Zoom room, please chime in. I'd like to know, you know, is this making sense to you, please? I have to call out names. Katrina, does that make sense to you?
Hi there, it totally does.
Yes, good, good. And you know this because you know, your clients come to you in pain, right?
Yeah, sure. It's just helpful to have it spelt out like you are.
Yeah, great. Thank you. And so, yeah, I just really want to make sure that point is made, that there is a time and a place for cycles, and there's a time and a place for a linear shape. And so, yeah, where you can in that educate model, please do keep it linear. The other kind of linear shape that we want to look at is the excite model. The excite model also is linear, but you also want to have some sort of momentum and movement in it. So there's often an upward kind of movement to that excite model as well. So that's another thing to be aware of. And then coming to the success model and the yes model, those are more likely to be parts of a whole. So you're going to have a shape, like it could be a circle, it could be, you know, we have people using all sorts of shapes, briefcases, rockets, shapes of heads, hearts, all sorts of things. And you can break that into parts of a whole. You can even have, you know, a jigsaw puzzle broken into parts of a whole. Those are appropriate to use for a success model or a yes model, where each piece is making up a whole and each piece is equally sized, because they're all important. So those non-linear shapes are better for your success model and your yes model. All right, any questions on that, please do shout out. Otherwise, I'll move on to the next type of mistake. Okay, mistake number 3 is overusing the same shape. And so where I've seen this is that someone just loves a shape and they're like, oh, well, this is my, this shape's in my logo, or this shape's in my branding, like it's a light bulb. And so I love the light bulb, and so I want all 4 of my shapes to be a light bulb so that it's all consistently on brand. That might sound like a nice idea in theory. However, what happens there is, if you've got 4 shapes that are all the same, they're all light bulbs, what happens when you say to everyone, oh, you remember my light bulb shape? They'll be like, which light bulb shape? They're all light bulbs. It doesn't help your clients, right? What would be better for your clients is for each of those 4 models to have distinctly different shapes that you can refer to, so that you can, at the end of a presentation or when you're working with your clients, easily refer back to, remember this, you know, remember the triangle model, remember the stairs model, remember the rocket model, right? If we can refer to each of those different shapes clearly, and the clients are easily going to remember and recognize and have that, you know, that easy recall of exactly what it is that you're talking about, that's going to be better for your clients to not feel overwhelmed and freaked out and confused, like, oh, I didn't get it. Why don't I remember that model? Or, you know, whatever it is. So please do not use the same shape for all 4 models. The other thing I'd say is, don't get attached to a particular shape and then try and make your content fit into a particular shape, like, you know, fitting a square peg into a round hole. Extract the content first and then choose the right shape for the content, not the other way around. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Any questions on overusing the same shape? The other place I see this is in Venn diagrams, where someone's like, oh, Venn diagram for everything. I'm a massive Venn diagram fan, but you don't need 6 Venn diagrams in your signature system. More than likely, if you're going to have a Venn diagram, the place it's likely to show up is as your success model. That's generally where it fits. Any questions? Good. We'll keep moving. And then finally, the biggest mistake people make is mixing up the models. And yes, for those in the Zoom room, this is my non-personal example of a dog's breakfast, because I didn't want to share anyone in particular's attempt at creating a model, because I don't want to name and shame anyone, and that would be unkind. So I've just made up a random shape. So in the shape, we've basically got nectarines and peaches, so 2 fruits. Then we've got Indonesia, which is a country. Then I've got 76%, but it's like a very small sliver of a shape. And then I've got yes without a no, right? So 4 different types of information in one model. And this is exactly the same as having pieces of your success model, educate model, excite model, and yes model all shoved into one model, which is what happens when you create in isolation, because you're so far in it you can't see the wood for the trees, right? You can't see outside the box. I'm glad you're finding it fascinating, Taryn. Yay! I wish you could see the picture. Come into Zoom. And hi, Francis. So really, it's so important to make sure that when you're extracting your information, that you are extracting the right information for the right model, right? As everything's coming out of your brain, it needs to be channeled into those 4 models. And, the process that I lay out for you, the step-by-step process, is designed to avoid that you mix up the models. But then also you've got to have that feedback session. You've got to actually get feedback from me, from my team, to make sure that, we can just check this stuff. We see it. We see so many models every day. We're going to be like, straight away, boom, why have you got 2 fruits of the country? Right? Which is obvious in this dog's breakfast model, but it's not necessarily obvious when you've got a success model item stuck in an educate model, right? Stevie and I will pick that up, boom, like that, but you won't notice it, and other people won't notice it, but it will feel kind of not quite right to people, but they won't know why. And we'll be able to pick up those tiny little things to make sure that you're not going out to market with mistakes in your models. All right, any questions on that one? Good. Awesome. So I'm going to end the Facebook Lives now and just focus on the people in the Zoom room. So thank you guys for joining me on Facebook Live. Beautiful. And there we go. Awesome. So now I just want to come back to beautiful Zoom room people. Thank you so much for joining me live in the Zoom room. I do want to check in with you now and just see who here has already started creating their models. Katrina, have you started yours?
Hi. Have I started my models? Every now and then I'll scribble something down and put it on a pile.
Yes.
Ready to go back to,
Yeah, great. So was that helpful today then?
Yeah.
Beautiful. Great. What about you, Ty? Are you there? If you're there, or if you want to unmute yourself and just say hello. No? Okay. All right. I'll keep moving then. So for those of you who are in the Zoom room or watching the recording, I do want to also let you know about our online Game Changer program. So if you want to create your signature system, this is the way to work with us. It's the only way that we are helping people with visual models right now. And that is, so it basically, many of you have read the book, Game Changer. And so this is like the next level. The Game Changer course takes you through step by step each of the things that you need to get clarity on to extract and create your visual models. And then once you've done that, you jump in a Zoom room with me and Stevie, and you present your models using the pitch script that I teach, actually get the feedback you need. So you are not creating an isolation. You're not using the wrong shapes. You're not using the same shape for everything. You're not mixing up those models. We will make sure that none of those mistakes are made in your models so that you are representing your brand at the highest level. And so, you know, it's presented as an online program, but it is with support, which we think is very, very important. And we pride ourselves on making sure that, you know, we have a 100% success rate. And that means that every single person who works with us completes their signature system. And we maintain that because we don't just, this is not just like a full DIY program, because I am the world's worst student when it comes to that stuff. I'm the person who will buy a program and then save it for a rainy day, which never comes. You know, I'll download all the resources, put it in a folder and think, I'll get there one day, and I just don't. Because that's just me, and maybe it's a bit of, I'm sure I'm not the only one. I'm sure it's a bit of human nature, and Katrina could probably tell us the psychology behind that. But it just never, for me, it never happened. So the way we avoid that happening with our clients is when you register for this program, you must lock in a date that you will present your models to us. That gives you a deadline. And so that just means you need to set aside 7.5 hours, whether you smash out in one day like I would, or you drip feed that to yourself and spread it out over time. You just need to invest that 7.5 hours in extracting your models first, and then you come into the Zoom room ready to present your slideshow. So whether using PowerPoint or Google Slides or whatever the Mac one is, something. So Mac person can tell me. What's it called, Stevie? Oh, you're muted. Keynote, that's the one. Yes, Keynote if you're a Mac person. So you can create it in whatever you want to use that you're comfortable with, because you just share your screen at your own end in the Zoom room to make sure that we can see your models. So you actually walk through and talk through your models to get the feedback that you need. And so the investment in this is $1,100 up front, or there's also that payment plan of $220 a month. 6 months. The presentation dates are filling up really, really fast. So September is almost fully booked. The 13th of September is fully booked. I think we've still got a couple of places maybe left for the 19th of September, and then we're filling October. So even if you're thinking, oh, I can't do it now, and we're in August, and you're thinking you might want to do it in a couple of months, best to lock in positions now because they are filling months in advance. So this is the best way to secure your position and make sure that you actually get a chance to get our brains on your work and get the feedback that you need. And there's also the Facebook secret support group as well. Cool. All right. That's all of the official stuff from me.